All right, so let's get into something pretty interesting. I think something that we all deal with on a daily basis, and that is just that feeling of, oh, look, a squirrel, when it comes to our attention spans. You know, you sit down with the best of intentions, right, to really focus on something, and next thing you know, you're 3 hours deep into cat videos and conspiracy theories about the Earth being flat.
Right.
But what if this constant distraction, this sort of inability to focus on something, isn't just a harmless quirk? What if it's actually changing like the very structure of our brains?
Yeah, it's a fascinating and frankly concerning phenomenon. You know, we're in the midst of a massive experiment with our brains as the subjects. The constant barrage of digital stimuli notifications, like this, endless scrolling. It's like we've plugged ourselves into a dopamine IV drip.
Okay, dopamine IV drip. That's a pretty vivid image. I like that.
Yeah.
But remind me, for those of us who haven't taken a neurobiology class lately, just what exactly is dopamine doing in our brains?
Well, so think of dopamine as the brain's reward signal.
Yeah.
It's what gives us that feeling of pleasure and motivates us to seek out things that are important for survival, like food and water and connection.
Right.
The problem is our brains evolved in a world where these rewards were scarce.
Right.
Now with the internet, we have an endless supply of them at our fingertips.
Oh, it's like our brains are stuck in this hunter-gatherer mode, still wired to chase those dopamine hits, but now those hits are coming from a funny meme or a viral TikTok dance instead of finding, a ripe berry bush or something.
Exactly.
No wonder we feel so scattered.
Our brains haven't quite caught up to the pace of technological change.
Right.
Scientists call this cognitive evolutionary mismatch.
Okay.
Imagine trying to run a marathon with a Stone Age toolkit.
Right.
That's kind of what's happening to our brains right now.
Okay. I'm starting to understand why I can't seem to read a book for more than 5 minutes without checking my phone. Is there more technical term for this feeling of my brain is turning to mush?
Well, brain rot might be a bit dramatic. The more scientific term would be attention erosion.
Okay.
It's the idea that our capacity for sustained focus, for deep thinking, is gradually being chipped away by the constant demands for our attention.
And it's not just about being able to sit still and read a book, right?
Right.
This has bigger implications for how we learn, how we solve problems, how we engage with the world around us.
Absolutely. Consider this. Studies show that heavy social media use is actually linked to a decrease in gray matter volume in the region of the brain associated with empathy.
Wow, empathy. That's pretty fundamental to being human, right?
Exactly. And it's just one example of how our digital habits might be altering our cognitive abilities in ways that we're only beginning to understand.
So we've got this ancient brain wired for a world of scarce rewards, suddenly plugged into a 2047 dopamine casino, and our ability to focus and even empathize is taking a hit.
That's a pretty accurate summary.
Okay.
But here's where things get even more interesting.
Oh, I know you love this part. Here's where things get even more interesting.
It's not just the content of our digital world that's impacting our brains.
Okay.
It's the medium itself. Think about how platforms like TikTok or Instagram are designed.
Right.
The endless scroll, the autoplay videos, the notifications popping up every few seconds.
Yeah.
It's all engineered to keep us hooked.
It's like those slot machines in Vegas designed to keep you feeding them quarters.
Exactly.
Only in this case, the quarters are our attention.
Precisely. And this constant bombardment of stimuli trains our brains to expect instant gratification. We become accustomed to information in bite-sized chunks to entertainment that comes at us with the swipe of a finger.
Which makes it even harder to sit down and, actually read something like a book or, this research that we're talking about right now.
Right.
It's very meta.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
It is.
We're discussing the importance of deep thinking and sustained attention.
Right.
Using a medium that often undermines those very capacities.
And the implications of this go way beyond just individual brain function, right? This has societal consequences as well.
Absolutely.
Think about how this impacts our ability to solve complex problems, to engage in meaningful dialogue, to make informed decisions.
It's a concern that's increasingly being raised by educators, psychologists, even tech leaders themselves.
Wow.
Some are even calling for a complete redesign of our digital platforms, arguing that the current model is simply unsustainable.
A redesign of the entire internet now, that's a big idea. But before we get into solutions, I want to hear more about what's happening inside those dopamine-soaked brains of ours. Specifically, how is this impacting younger generations?
Yeah, that's where things get really concerning. We're talking about kids who have never known a world without smartphones and social media. Their brains are literally being shaped by these platforms from the very beginning.
So what are we seeing in terms of the actual impact on their development?
There's a growing body of research suggesting a link between excessive screen time and a range of issues, including
Hit me with the list.
declining reading rates, shorter attention spans, increased anxiety, and even difficulty with social skills.
Social skills, but they're constantly connected on social media.
Yes, but it's a different kind of connection.
Okay.
It's often superficial, lacking the nuances and complexities of face-to-face interaction.
So we're trading depth for breadth, real connection for virtual likes. And this is happening during those crucial years when their brains are still developing.
Exactly. It's like building a house on a foundation of quicksand.
Okay. I'm officially feeling a little panicked now. Is there any hope? Can we rewire our brains back?
Don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. Remember what we said about neuroplasticity?
Right.
Our brains are incredibly adaptable. Just as they've adapted to this digital environment, they can adapt away from it.
So what can we do? How do we start rewiring those neural pathways and reclaiming our attention?
That's the million-dollar question, and one that we'll explore in depth
Okay.
after a quick break.
Yeah, it sounds good. We'll be right back.